So the next set of questions came from two people, but since they're all asking for attack range, we grouped them together so our expert can speak to them like together. So can you talk about Splunk Attack Range and how can Splunk Attack Range be extended to also test detection appliance like NIDS or NDR?
Yep, sure. I'll take this one. Yeah, so the first link here is the blog that Patrick wrote on the team for the latest attack range 3.1. And this new, I have the link staged. But this link will take you right to the blog. And Patrick made a video also walking through, what is attack range and how to set it up and more or less how to use it. It's really cool. But some of the big updates we added to this release was adding in Snort. So now you can use Snort in the attack range. It will automatically, when it builds, it'll have everything set up to log Snort into Splunk. So there's really nothing to configure. The only big thing that you may want to configure is just adding a different Snort rule set. If you have custom rules or anything you want to test, you can go into the actual server and add any custom signatures and things like that too. Which is really nice. And so you could build a really large range with all these different things built in there, which is great. The other big one that he added was adding the Cisco Secure Endpoint. So you deploy Cisco Secure Endpoint, and then you can also have it to where it will enable logging and get everything into Splunk as well for attack range. And one of the bigger things that we just recently did, we pushed a lot of recent and new content for Audit D. So if you're using Audit D or you're looking to get into Audit D, we have a really large swath of new content written just for it. So you're able to, if you want to test it within the range, you could tell it to, install on your Linux machines, have Audit D running. I think it's actually on by default. It'll log and it'll all just ship right into Splunk, so you can start playing with it right out the gate. It's kind of the biggest changes we've added. And as far as extending the attack range, one of the nice things about attack range is when you do deploy it like on AWS, is you can add new appliances or different products or instances into your current VPC. So if you're looking to test out like a Palo Alto device or some other product, you can actually just append it or add it into that private network, and then just tell it to send data right to Splunk using Heck or doing inputs, whatever kind of method that seems the easiest, right? Or based on the documentation of the product. They're all going to be a little bit varying. Um, Otherwise, yeah, that's kind of how we do it, right? So if we're, I think previous one, we talked about writing content for web apps. So we actually have Nginx, right? We have Nginx, Apache, we have something in the range. But you can deploy that on the Linux machine and it's like a basic web server, right? So you can go and add your content, PHP, and then all of that. It's easy to add the inputs and then you can go and ship off that content to Splunk pretty quickly as well, which is nice. So it's all about adapting for whatever it may be.
Yeah, Mike, if you allow me, I'll
Yeah, of
maybe
course.
two more bits of color. Like, in the past, we've used it, for example, I think I think the like Ivanti, where it had a major vulnerability. You can grab, like Mike mentioned, a VM off of AWS and just have it logged into your attack range Splunk server. And one quick, easy way to extend it. As part of this release 3.1, and Mike, you mentioned secure endpoint, but another thing I think Patrick added in there was a snort. So again, that's a network IDS. SourceFire, Cisco SourceFire uses Snort language under the hood. So now we're using, I think, open source Snort. Are slightly different, but it's a Snort rule. It's a Snort rule. You can test it out in attack range, see the log into Splunk, and then leverage it in your environment, or yeah, leverage it in your production environment afterwards. A few other kind of quality of life, I guess, engineering nerd by trade here. I think that they were kind of neat that we've now have on this update is we've built attack ranges in the past with Docker, but now we have a version tagged by Docker. So every new version release now has an updated Docker container. So it makes it very easy to somebody to just to grab a Docker image of it and get rolling with it very fast without having to mess with installing attack range, the Python code in your box necessarily, right? Usually that can get hairy with dependencies. And then the other big thing, I think that, again, it was more of a quality of life thing than anything else, is the original Attack Range leverage Packer, HashiCorp Packer heavily to pre-build images. And then from those images is what it would deploy, right? Like pre-build an image and then deploy it in AWS or deploy that locally. We've went away from that. Now we have a lot more, it's a more streamlined way to build using Ansible and straight up Terraform now. So I think that was a good quality of life improvement. It also speeds up, I think, a little bit our build time as part of it. So yeah, check it out.
Want to sign up for a future community office hours? From community.splunk.com, select events, then office hours Ask the Experts to register for a session across platform, security, or observability. Hope to see you in the next one.